Today I wanna speak about how to validate a HTTP request with HttpClient Zod in Angular. First of all, who I am? I'm Luca Del Puppo, a full-stack developer, a JavaScript and TypeScript lover, a fake YouTuber, and a writer. In my free time I love running, hiking, and stay with my doggy. But let's start. So I want to start with a TypeScript journey. So almost 10 years ago was born TypeScript, and we start to convert our code using it. We start to create interfaces and probably also types. And this is perfect because we start to have a type system in our JavaScript ecosystem. Then we start to create HTTP requests to get data from our API. And during the development mode probably all it's okay, and we don't find any problem. But after a while, probably something has changed in the API, and the result in our Angular application was like that. So probably someone is changed from string to number, from number to string, and so on. And this is a very big problem. Why? First of all, because TypeScript is enabled only during the developer mode and until the build time. So after the build, all the code base become a JavaScript code base. So after the build, all your types disappear, and after the build, all your consideration about the types dissolve. So if you think, for instance, the result of an API is a string, but you receive a number, probably you can do a problem if you concatenate two property of the same type, because probably 1 plus 1 it's not 11, but it's 2 in this case. So how we can prevent these ugly mistakes? Our superhero is Zod. Zod is an npm library, and you can find it in npm. You can install it using npm install Zod. And the concept behind this library is to create an object that represents your type also during the runtime mode of your code. So Zod introduced a concept called schema. A schema is an object that you can create it using the Zod API. And as you can see, the syntax is similar to the TypeScript syntax. And this is the important thing is the const. As you can notice, this customer schema is a JavaScript object. So this object rests alive also after the build. So we can use it during the runtime of the code. So we can start from the schema and create an object that represents our type. Then we can convert this schema in a TypeScript type or interface. So we can use it in our code base, and we can get all the benefit of using TypeScript in our code base, in our application. And then using the parse method, we can check at runtime if the object respects our schema. So we are sure that the object received from an API is like expected. Otherwise, the parse method raises an error. So if the types is not like expected, we can get an error from the parse method, and the error is of type Zod. The Zod error is an error that contains all the issues that describe the error, and so we can get info about what is changed, and so we can react to this problem as soon as possible. But which are the benefits of using Zod in our application? For me, the benefit of using Zod is to create a layer between our application and the external, in this case an API or a WebSocket and so on. So the benefit is to check in the border of our application, so where the application receives data, if this data are like expected. So we can check, okay, I decided this, I think this type is an object with two property, one of type string and the other of type number. And at runtime, we are able to check if this is true. If it's not true, we can raise an error and we can get a notification from Sentry or something else and fix the problem as soon as possible. So we can prevent to show strange data to our user, and we can prevent the execution of the code with wrong data in this case. So now it's time to see a quick demo. The application is pretty simple. There is a search input where you can find for a user, and for instance, if I type my name, the application provides for a search on GitHub and try to search the user that matches with this term. But if I move to the code, I already installed Zod, and now I import the Z object and the Zod schema type. First of all, I create a GitHub schema, and in this case the GitHub user is an object with a different property: login of type string, id of type number, avatar URL of type string, and so on. As you can notice, we can also map union type and literal and so on. So all the feature present on TypeScript is present out of the box with Zod. Then I convert the schema into a type, so we can use it in our TypeScript code, and then I combine this schema with another to create the whole result. In this case, GitHub user search response is an object with an items that is an array of GitHub user and a total count of type number, and then I convert it in a type. Then I use the HTTP client exposed by Angular to create the request. In this case, create a search method that accepts a query, and then I create the get request using this query and the URL. As you can notice, in this case, I use response, and I use the parse to check if the response is of type GitHub user search response. As you can notice here, response is of type object, and then I can use the GitHub user search response type to check if the response has the items property. If, for instance, I comment this line, as you can notice, TypeScript show an error. In this case, because the response is not of type GitHub user search response, but is of type object. So using Zod, we can prevent this problem. And for instance, if I uncomment the line, as you can see, the application now work in the right way, and we can use the type, and we are sure that at line 39 the response is of type GitHub user search response. This is important because this parse is provided during the runtime mode of your code, not just during the build time. And so each time you receive a response, this parse will be executed, and you are sure that the line 39 is of type GitHub user search response. Which are the benefits of using Zod? For instance, if I change the ID, in this case from number to string, and I go back to my application, if I try to find again my name, as you can notice, there is an error. If I show the console, in this case, the parse return a list of error, in this case, because Zod detect there is a property that receive a number, but the type expected string. In this case, the property is in the items property, the element 0, and the property ID of this element. The same for the 1, the 2, and so on. So as you can understand, this is fantastic, because we can prevent all the mistake, and we are sure that the code run with the expected type also during the runtime, not just in build time. Another cool thing that we can create is a short array XJS operator called Zod validation. In this case, we can pass the schema, and the operator accepts a source of a type observable of unknown and return an observable of the infer type of the schema. So we can use source.pipe, we can map the object and call the schema parse, and the result is of this type. In this case, if I comment the response and I use this operator, for instance, you can wrap the logic of the parse inside of this operator, and you can use Zod probably easier in your code base. So if I go back and I fix again the ID from string to number, and I go back to my browser, for instance, and now I check for my name, again the application printed the result now. So perfect. I suppose you have all the notion for start to using Zod and to get the benefit from it. So we can go back to our slide and go to the conclusion. So which are the benefits of using Zod? First of all, after this talk, I suppose you have understand TypeScript is awesome, and I use it in all my applications. So it's perfect and it's beautiful and I love it. But you have to remember that TypeScript disappears after the build. So create a layer between your application and the host site, prevent execution of your code with wrong data, and you can prevent that users see strange data in application or see problem in the application. And also, if you catch the error, you can get a notification from your Sentry and so on, and you can react to fix it as soon as possible. How we can create this layer? This layer we can create using Zod, and Zod it's able to guarantee our type, both build time and runtime. So we are sure that the code that we write in our editor is the same that will be executed in the browser. So I suppose that's all. This is the code, this is the slide, and that's all. I hope you enjoy this content. These are my contact. If you wanna chat with me, you are welcome. The Twitter and LinkedIn message are open. If you wanna follow me on YouTube, this is my channel, and you can find my article in DevTL or in my blog. So thank you and bye bye.